The 24 Hours of Le Mans is the crucible of endurance sports car racing. Since 1923, the world's best have fought for Le Mans glory and the immortality that awaits any who can meet its challenge. Now, Le Mans comes to America. What better place to begin the inaugural American Le Mans Series than the birthplace of endurance racing in the United States, Sebring, Florida. In 1950, Alec Ullman wanted to create his own American version of Le Mans, so he laid out a racetrack on this sleepy Central Florida airport. The 50s and 60s saw Sebring become an international showplace as manufacturers such as Cunningham, Ferrari, Ford, Jaguar, and Porsche claimed Sebring glory with cars driven by the sport's best, men like Phil Hill, Mario Andretti, and Dan Gurney. Today, with the inaugural race of the American Le Mans Series, Sebring retakes its rightful place on the world stage. For the 47th time, the heavy hitters of worldwide sports car racing have gathered under a bright Florida sun for this once-around-the-clock marathon. Welcome to the 47th Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring, presented by the new Dodge. Welcome to one of the great places in sport, everyone. I'm Bob Barsha, and great sporting events are so much about place. Think of Wimbledon in tennis or Augusta National in golf. So it is here at Sebring, where a driver can literally drive in the tracks of some of the sports legends over the last 50 years. Now, we often talk about Sebring and the 24 Hours of Le Mans in France as sister events. That relationship is now official, thanks to the dawning of the American Le Mans Series. 8 races around the United States this summer run under the rules of the French Classic. The result is one of the greatest fields of cars and drivers we've ever seen here at Sebring. 58 cars representing a dozen manufacturers, including the successful ones you see there. Ticket sales have been running some 40% ahead of previous years. We should have a record crowd on hand under beautiful blue skies, and the quality of the driving field is second to none. Starting from pole position is a classic example of the new Sebring, a state-of-the-art car from a legendary manufacturer with a vastly experienced driver at the controls. With more on that story, here's Steve Evans.
Well, Bob, BMW enthusiasts all over the world will be thrilled to know that their brand new car, the BMW LMR V12, is on the pole. Its first outing, and Finnish driver J.J. Leto put it there at over 121 miles an hour. And J.J., what can you and your fellow drivers do to save this car, bring it home in one piece after 12 hours?
Well, it's a fresh BMW car, so this is the first race for us, and it's a very good practice race for the real Le Mans for June. So that's why we came here, just to see how reliable the car is at the moment. But, you know, the whole team, BMW Schnitzer team, has been working very hard all week to make it as reliable as possible, and all the guys have been doing a good job. So we're just hoping to see it in the end of 12 hours.
Best of luck to you, JJ. And remember, guys, this car is starting on Michelin tires. Michelin has never won here at Sebring.
All right, thanks, Steve. In a moment, they will have that opportunity. Joining me now, ESPN sports car analyst and 5-time Sebring competitor, Jeremy Dale. Jeremy, we talked about the Le Mans rules. That could well be a factor in this race.
Well, it's a great thing for sports car racing fans because for the first time in a long, long time, there's a common rules package between North America and Europe. And it's just a fabulous thing for sports car racing and for sports car racing fans.
1999 starts fresh with a rules package that mirrors that of the ACO, the group that sets the rules for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. These rules encourage manufacturer involvement while providing a good opportunity for privateers. GTP is the fastest class. It's a combination of world sports cars, Le Mans prototypes, and GT1 cars. All cars carry 90 liters of fuel, and no cars are permitted traction control or ABS systems. The GTS category is what used to be GT2. These production-based cars have bigger tires, bigger engines, and better aerodynamics for 1999. Most are privately entered, but the factory Corvettes have dominated the timesheets. The GT category was known as GT3. Also production-based, but less powerful than GTS cars, GT rules have not changed for 1999. This class is traditionally a Porsche BMW battleground. But probably the most obvious change for American race fans will be the Le Mans-style pit stop. You won't see any 6-second pit stops here because the American Le Mans Series rules do not permit the crew to work on the car while it's being refueled. That means pit stops will be longer and tire management will be more critical.
No question about it. The pit rules could be key in this race. Now let's talk about how the teams can take maximum advantage, Jeremy.
Well, it really is a tire issue because you cannot change tires while the car is refueling. That means if you can make your tires last 2 or 3 stints, which is what they do at Le Mans, that will be a major advantage for these teams. But what we're really going to be watching is the American teams that aren't used to this format. And we're going to be watching them very closely as they try and instinctively go out and work on those cars while they're being refueled.
We should keep in mind, too, the Sebring track is very tough on tires. We'll be visiting history here at Sebring throughout the show, beginning right now. In 1955, Sebring witnessed an incredible race. For 12 hours, the Jaguar D-Type of Mike Hawthorne and Phil Walters battled with the red Ferrari of Phil Hill and Carroll Shelby before the Jaguar went on to win. Later that year, Hawthorne added the 24 Hours of Le Mans, becoming the first driver to complete the endurance double in 1 year. Jackie Hicks and Jackie Oliver did it as co-drivers, while Stefan Johansson and Hans Stuck are in today's race. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring is being brought to you by Exxon Superflow Motor Oil. Provides protection that's fast, protection that lasts. By the Olive Garden. When you're here, your family. And by Suzuki. During Suzuki Fest 99, get $400 worth of free accessories and great financing on selected models. Welcome back to Sebring. It is time for the field of 58 to come to life. Ready to give the command, Mr. Paul White, Exxon Lubricants Manager.
Exxon Superflow supports gentlemen or drivers. Start your engines.
Good job, everybody.
Thank you.
The field is now fired up, preparing to roll off. Now let's take a look at the battlefield with our Olive Garden course description.
Well, Sebring International Raceway, of course, very historic, 3.7 miles, and this is the 7th revision of the original track. Mainly it's been shortened over the years, but the big change this year is down at the hairpin. It's been pulled back to create a safer runoff area in the braking zone. But the big problem is going to be after the initial turn-in, there's this little left-right jog, and I'm predicting that's going to create big, big problems for the faster cars in traffic all day. The other big deal is down at 17. The cars now run down the back straight with the wall there on your right, and the cars pop out from behind that wall. There's not nearly as much room in that braking zone down there for passing as they head under the bridge out onto the main straight here at Sebring.
Let's take a look at our starting grid for this classic race. On the pole with a record lap averaging 121.25 miles an hour, the all-new BMW V12 with J.J. Leto at the controls. He'll be partnered by former Le Mans winner Tom Christensen of Denmark and German Jörg Müller, a winner of the 24 Hours at Daytona. Here's a look at the rest of the lineup. The first 10 starters, the biggest field of GT prototype cars ever seen here at Sebring, some 30 strong. The grid was shuffled through the morning hours. We lost one car in the warm-up, and several cars have decided to change tire compounds. They will go to the back of the grid. Starting back in the number 27 spot on row 14 will be our leaders in the GTS category. Moving up to 26th after one GTP car dropped out after that crash in the warm-up. Ron Fellows, Chris Neifel, and John Paul Jr., the only Sebring winner on the driving strength of that fabulous new Chevy Corvette. On the next page, our pole sitters in the GT category. Also production-based vehicles, very close to what you buy from the showrooms. Starting from pole, we met them earlier. Alex Jobe Racing Porsche 911 RSR. Randy Post put it on pole at record time. He'll be joined by Mark Fitzgerald and David McNeil. Here's a look at the rest of the field. They will come around to take the green flag in the 47th revival of one of the greatest events in sports car racing. Now let's take a look at our onboard cameras, and we have one in our pole-sitting BMW LMR driven by Formula One kart and sports car veteran J.J. Leto. This is on the long backstretch. On board the number 11 Ferrari, led by two-time sports car champion Wayne Taylor. A very strong driver lineup here. Taylor suffered from flu at Daytona earlier this year, but he is healthy and ready to go now. Also, we have a camera on board the number 27 Ferrari. Freddie Leinhardt and two former winners of this race as teammates, Didier Tays, who will start the car, and Mauro Baldi of Italy. On board the number 38 champion Porsche, starting in the number 18 spot. Another Formula One winner, Terry Bootson will start. Bob Wallach on that driving team as well. On board the number 3 Corvette. Pole sitters in the GTS category. Ron Fellows, Chris Neifel, and John Paul Jr., as we mentioned earlier. Now on board the number 10 BMW. 2-time winners of this race. What is now the GT category. Prototype Technology out of Virginia. Another strong line. Now let's go to Steve Evans.
There is drag racing, there is IndyCar racing, there was everything imaginable going on in the Sunshine State this weekend. But let me tell you what, as you said earlier, Bob, the big crowd, the international crowd is here at Sebring. And if you want to know more about the International Le Mans Series, pick up this weekend's edition of USA Today. It's an 8-page supplement jammed with information. I think Bob is using the boot as his Bible. Bob?
As the field comes down, the green flag waves, and we are underway at Sebring. And J.J. Leto got outfoxed at turn 1.
And that is the Raffinelli, Riley, and Scott car. That's Judd V10 power in that car. Shared the front row. Actually split those V12 BMWs. Continues to lead. J.J. Leto back in second position as they head down to the revised hairpin. Look at the 2 bridges, the drive-over bridge and the Exxon walkover bridge. And this straightaway has been shortened quite a bit.
Eric Van de Poel from Belgium as we go on board with Didier Tays, just recovering there from a quick twitch.
Wow, that looked like a big twitch. I'm not sure that wasn't a hit of some kind.
Now coming up to speed, racing toward the backside of this racetrack. The Fangio Chicane at the Collier Curve. Collier was the namesake of the original running of this race when it was a 6-hour event. The Sam Collier Memorial on New Year's Eve 1950. And a twitch right there. Perhaps still cold tires on that Riley and Scott.
Absolutely. This is Angelelli. We go on board, and that is the PANOZ. Now, the car in front last year would have been in the GT1 category, but these cars have been equalized for 99 under Le Mans and American Le Mans rules. So these cars now carry identical amounts of fuel, and of course, the GT1 cars used to have the ABS and the traction control.
And that's Angelelli. He drove for the team for 24 hours at Daytona earlier this year. The leader to the left of your screen, Eric Van de Poel, and that Riley and Scott Mark III with a Formula One derived Judd V8 engine.
V10 engine in the car. But Riley and Scott fans, you can see the smoke coming out of that Judd. Oh my. But that is a Riley and Scott, though it doesn't really look a lot like a Riley and Scott, especially the tail section, because the Raffinelli team is doing a tremendous amount of work. And these guys are so motivated to beat this factory BMW team. They're just so pumped up that they were on the front row. And this program is a very young program. Only came together at the end of January.
Fans of Formula One will remember that Judd as a V10 that was under the Yamaha nameplate. Unsuccessful years in Formula One. Max Angelelli, Olive Garden, Ferrari 333 SP. V12 Ferrari power in that car. Rotary and piston powered, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 cylinders. We have them all here.
I love the mechanical diversity in sports car racing. It is just so exciting to see all this machinery. We haven't really gotten to it yet, but there's some very interesting Audis in this field, and we'll get to that. But right now, up front, a great battle with that Raffinelli, Riley, Scott, and these 2 factory BMWs.
Opening laps of the 12-hour sprint. Not so much an endurance race as it is an all-out blast at Sebring. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Battles going on all around the racetrack. The GT battle right here. The Porsche number 22 and the BMW. As the race leaders come flying around to put them a lap down in the early laps of this race.
And look at the race leaders where they are now. They are gone.
Tremendous speed differentials here. From the pit lane, Dave Burns.
Bob, you talk about team orders. You've got the 10 car that Boris Sett is driving and also the 7 of Mark Simo. Right now, the 10 car battling for the lead is the faster car, the car that's set up with a more aggressive setup here today. They're hoping that the 10 car can win the race outright by pure speed if it lasts. But the 7 car and Mark Simo and crew, they've got a softer, more forgiving setup that they hope is going to save both tires, wear on the car, and wear on the driver.
Thanks, Dave. No surprise, these cars were all running close together. They qualified within a half second of one another. Right now it is Porsche out front, winning this class by far in Sebring history. With one of the BMW M3s.
And the leaders coming through this battle has hurt Boris Said. There is James Weaver in the number 16 Dyson car. And look at the shenanigans here. This is that new section of racetrack, and it's causing a lot of confusion as predicted. And look at now how Boris has dropped back from the Alex Joe Porsche.
That windshield wiper has come into good use in previous editions of this race. Rain has plagued the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring over recent years. But today, the forecast is perfect, although it could get fairly hot, and that'll make things interesting. If the sun goes down, the temperature comes down, and the tire situation changes completely. Still running nose to tail up front. Eric Van de Poel, J.J. Leto, and Yannick Dalmas in the second BMW V12 LMR.
Now, this is Van de Poel, who has started this car and will set the tone for the rest of the team. His co-drivers are very young Formula 3000 drivers. They are not endurance racers. They've got the pure speed, but they don't have the experience in endurance racing. So it's Eric's job to tutor these guys and make sure that he sets the tone for this team to, yes, drive this car quickly, but to get it to the finish.
Those co-drivers are David Salens from Belgium and Thomas Engen from the Czech Republic.
And Mr. Raffinelli told me, he said, you know, our youngsters are probably quicker than Eric is. We need Eric to show these guys what they need to do to get this car to the finish.
Quick look from on board. J.J. Leto's car will go back on board now. Notice that roll bar in the rear view mirror at the center of your screen? That's been the topic of a lot of discussion this week.
Well, yeah, that's revision for 1999. It has a single pointed roll bar. You can see how the roll bar, oh, look at this Leto alongside. This is on the outside, though. You're going to have to use a lot of commitment to take this position away. Boy, he wants it.
Scrambling through the chicane, looking for grip. Roll bar in the car ahead is the traditional one in this class, basically the width of the cockpit.
Exactly, but the new BMW has the single pointed roll bar, and there's been a great deal of debate about this, A, from a safety standpoint, and B, from a rule standpoint, because all the manufacturers know the less you have up in the airstream there, the less frontal area you expose to the airstream, the quicker the car is going to go, the more air is going to get to the rear wing, and so on. But it's a very, very big project to go back and redesign your car. So a lot of the other manufacturers are really up in arms about this BMW roll bar.
Board once again with Leto. GTS class leader runs in 27th position overall. The GT class leader 36th overall. Having to work the cars through traffic, the average lap speed has come down a bit. That last lap, 114.2 miles per hour.
Look at him there at the exit of turn 1. Lots of hands on the wheel. A lot of motion in that wheel. The car really moving around and bouncing around. This is not where you want to get stuck behind a slower car through the carousel here. You can see Van de Poel actually backed off a little bit there, so he didn't get bunched up. That's the kind of experience that you want. But Leto is right there. Van de Poel is going to have to defend this position, and Leto is going to take a shot down the outside.
Van de Poel will pin him behind that slower car up ahead. Great battle up front. Notice J.J. Leto's steering wheel. It's one of those Formula 1 style yokes, much like a top fuel drag racer. On a track like this that is so bumpy, occasionally a driver might lose his grip and have to grab for something. He's got a whole lot less wheel to grab than the others.
Absolutely, and plenty of buttons there to push. There's probably a speed limiter on there, and of course a radio button, a drink bottle button. A number of different things they can do from the steering wheel. Of course, unlike a Formula 1 car, they must take their hand off the wheel. No electromechanical shifting allowed. It's all mechanical, but it is a 6-speed sequential gearbox.
Working traffic once again. You see this race is going down at the pace of a 20-lap main on a dirt track. This is a 12-hour race around one of the toughest racing circuits in the world. Eric Van der Poel remains the leader, looking for his third victory in this race. We'll take a break. Be back live to Sebring. Welcome back to the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. There is your race leader here at the Superflow 12 Hours of Sebring, J.J. Leto. They put that car on pole. Moments ago, the previous race leader dropped back, is now in the pits. Dave Burns has more.
Bob, Eric Van der Poel sits silently in the Zero Team Raffinelli car right now. They think that it is in the electronic fuel injection. They have changed some electronics in the car. They're going to it. They don't think they have a motor problem. They've refueled the car and changed the tires to send him back out if they can fix it. But they do think it is electrical and in the fuel injection system.
Judd V10 engine. As you can see, it's difficult to get into that hot engine bay and get to whatever the problem might be. Meanwhile, the brand new BMW 12-cylinder LM is on its merry way in the lead.
And of course, this car has a derivative of the V12 BMW motor that won at Le Mans in 1995, the McLaren F1 car.
Whoops, one of the PANOZ, the #1 car for David Brabham, Eric Bernard, and Klaus Graf is losing body bits left and right.
Well, there's a good look at the mechanical bits on the PANOZ, and a good look at those air inlet restrictors. It looks like it might have lost the nose on the front straightaway. There it is.
Wow. This is the home team, if you will. PANOZ cars owned by Don PANOZ, who also owns the lease on the racetrack here at Sebring. These are 6-liter Ford V8s. Let's watch way at the back of your screen. PANOZ is on the front straight, and there goes the hood off this front engine car. And over the fence into an empty area, thankfully. Before you get to the rows of recreational vehicles pulled right up at trackside here at Sebring.
And it looks to me like some other part came off before the hood actually departed the car. So I'm wondering if he didn't have some kind of contact with another car which compromised the way the hood is fastened onto the car. Nevertheless, he will want to stop and make sure there's nothing else wrong with the car. The car will, from an aerodynamic standpoint, be very unbalanced now and not nearly as quick. Better to stop now, make sure there are no other problems, top it up with fuel. Of course, they have spare bodywork ready to go.
David Brabham at the controls, another of the second-generation drivers here, but his father, Sir Jack Brabham, raced here at Sebring in a Formula One car. He heads for the pit lane.
The Raffinelli car still in the pit lane.
Engines in this car come from the shops of Robert Yates Racing, NASCAR Winston Cup fame. All the way down at the far end of the pits. Eric Bernard opens the door. The colors of the French flag on his helmet. They'll lean in to help David Brabham adjust.
And the big question these guys ask themselves at this point is, why did that hood come off? There's not much point in putting another one on if it's just going to fly off again. So they're going to have a very close look at this car. They've got their refueling done. Now they can go to work.
In case you were wondering, the drivers can climb in and out of the car while it is being refueled. Let's see if we can figure out why that hood came off. Here's a closer look. Ah, there you see, battle damage at the left front.
Right. Well, that makes perfect sense. So a little bit of car contact, and that impatience or that mistake will cost you dearly, and that's the proof.
Back it comes, that unique front engine car. Not the sort of thing we're used to seeing in prototype racing, but that's the way Don PANOZ likes it, so that's the way it is. Well, back up front, J.J. Leto, originally from Finland, now living in Monaco, back en route. Plenty of stories still to unfold here at the 12 Hours of Sebring. Stand by. We'll be right back. Sebring figures prominently in the career of one of America's greatest racing drivers, Mario Andretti. His 3 Sebring overall wins in 1967, 70, and 72 came in 3 different cars with different co-drivers. Andretti's wins make him the leader in a small fraternity of men who have won both the Indianapolis 500 and the 12 Hours, including A.J. Foyt, Bobby Rahal, and Harry Lyondike. Welcome back to Sebring, Florida, the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. Bob Varsha along with Jeremy Dale, Steve Evans, and Dave Burns with you. We are under full course caution conditions for the first time today, and here is why. At the ultra-fast turn 17, number 76 Porsche of Richard Polidori went straight on into the tire wall.
And of course, a lot of damage to the tire wall. Richard got out of the car. We saw him walk away. He is okay, but quite probable that he had some kind of braking problem down there, so that's brought out this full course caution.
Now there is the number 42 car that led much of the early going the first 2 hours of this race, but it currently runs back in the number 10 spot. And here is why: an extended pit stop under the yellow flag, fortunately for the team. With more on that story, here's Dave Burns.
Well, Sports Car called them in and wanted them to come in during their next scheduled pit stop and have Joachim Kerbel and the rest of the crew go to work on the 42 because drivers were complaining there was no rear brake lights on the 42. And that's a no-no in road racing. So they brought him in. They had to remove the front cowling and go inside and change the brake light switch, which is located in the front of the car. They did it, but while they were doing it, the leader came by and put the 42 1 lap down.
Now the reason for that electrical disconnection may well have been because of something that happened moments before the yellow flag came out. Here's a look.
Well, here's J.J. Leto in the 42 car putting a lap on Ron Fellows, and they make contact. And I would be very surprised if that affected that brake light switch problem. I would guess they're very separate problems, but that certainly put Ron Fellows off the racetrack and may have damaged the left rear corner of the 42 car.
The number 3 Chevy Corvette C5R remains the leader in the GTS category as we go back under green here at Sebring. And the number 42 has moved up. Whoops, we've got a car off, a Porsche into the tire wall. I believe that's back in the tower turn. The right-hander before the high-speed back straight through Bishop Bend.
And on these restarts, not only, and there's the 42 car cutting through traffic.
Let's take another look at what happened back there. Was he going to get an assist from that silver PANOZ? I guess so.
Oh, a lot of help. And that PANOZ nowhere near being fully past the 33 car. Nowhere near it.
Number 33 running in the GT category, and on the driver's strength of that car, German Ulrich Richter, a very well-known Porsche competitor in endurance racing, sharing with Ulrich Galad and Karl Voslik. To the number 42 now. Push forward. Remind you, it was an electrical problem dealing with the brake light. Sort of a mechanical problem. It should be every bit as quick as this car was shown to be by the man who put it on hold. Record speed of over 121 miles an hour. J.J. Leto.
You can see tucked in not far behind the 42 car is the 0 car. There it is. The car that in the early going, driven by Eric Vanderpool, led this race. They ran into some problems with the engine electronic unit in that car. They changed out some parts. It is back up and running. It looks to be running strong as we go on board.
But it is well back in the field. Not shown in the top 45 in timing and scoring. He is at least 9 laps down to the race-leading BMW. Vanderpool from Belgium remains behind the wheel of the car. Long stint.
Team that if they didn't get their problem fixed, they were going to park the car, but it looks like they've got it fixed. We know they want to run out the 12 hours and get as much time on this Judd power plant as they can. But the 42 car now running very well, no problems there. We haven't been able to verify that it's got brake lights. Here's the 43 car up in the lead, showing with a lap lead over the rest of the field at this.
Familiar kidney-shaped wheel on the nose from BMW. A lot of open racetrack. There's the number 42 car. Tom Christensen from Denmark. Former winner of the Le Mans 24 Hours is behind the wheel.
And this is the car they needed to stop and replace the brake light switch on, or I should say fix the brake lights. I'm not sure they actually replaced the switch, but that cost them the race lead. They had over a lap lead on all of these other cars.
There's the third place PANOZ, the car that Christensen is chasing. Known as the Batmobile. That extraordinary aerodynamic treatment. Big 6-liter Ford up front.
And this may in fact be the last race for this car because Don PANOZ and company are working on an open cockpit car. This is the car that lost the hood earlier. They replaced that, had some car contact with another car. The hood blew off on the main straightaway. But they are working on an open cockpit car, so this is probably coming up on the end of the life for these front-engine Reynard-designed GT cars.
Here's the leader in the GT category for the smaller production-based cars. Prototype Technology Group BMW M3. Number 7 car has been a part of the top 3 in this class since the original green flag in this race. The 22 Porsche that sat on hold and led the early laps has dropped back to this grid. The number 10 sister car to this one also has been part of this fight. The number 7 car right there, currently 27th overall. The 10 car in second place is a lap behind, and the 22 Porsche runs on the same lap with the second place car, the BMW.
This PTG Milner team, both cars fell out at Daytona in the 24-hour race. They really have something to prove here. As you mentioned earlier, Bob, they've not won a race. They're on a 5-race winless streak, so they really have something to prove here to get to the finish.
Normally they win races at the rate of about 4 out of every 5 they enter, and they're leading the class right now. We'll be back to Sebring. Through the Le Mans curve and on to the long backstretch, known as the Ullman Straight here at Sebring International Raceway. The Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring continues. There's the race-leading BMW. Oh, flipped and spun! That Corvette leading the GTS class.
And that is that area we've talked about.
There must be something down because that other, I believe that's another BMW, also went around.
I don't know if there's anything on the racetrack. I think that the Corvette was just turning in. That's the end of that wall that we talked about. It is not as open as it used to be, and they came together.
I think that second car was the 26 BMW V12 LM, the 98 car for Bisher, Soper, and Oberlin. Yes, there goes the 26. Didn't take to the pit lane, surprisingly.
I think that was some significant contact there between those two cars. Significant contact. Let's go back and we'll take another look at it. And there is the leading car, and he's going to take the position away. He wants to take the position away, outbrake the Corvette, but the Corvette turns in. The BMW has nowhere to go, and they make contact.
Boy, he was lucky to stay off that wall. That's the second incident of the day for that number 3 Corvette. It was in the hands of the former season winner John Paul Jr.
And that spin there from the other BMW, that's what I would call a sympathy spin, which means things were slowing down and stacking up very quickly. You get into the brake pedal too quickly, and you can very easily spin the car.
Martini on his way, and now they're side by side again. And perhaps unusually close.
Unusually close. How dare you. And there's no question, the attitude from the guys in the GTP cars is, you know what, I'm the fastest car on the racetrack. It's your obligation to make room for me, and that's not really the case.
No, the rule of the road is the overtaking car is responsible for avoiding contact.
But there's no question that the attitude that these drivers have is make way for me.
Here comes the scene of the crime.
I'd really like to have a close look at the left front corner of that car because I would be very surprised if it wasn't damaged. There you can very clearly see a mark in front of the wheel Will he stop? No, he's not stopping, so he must be fairly happy with the handling of the car. Boy, those BMWs must be stopping because that was a bit of a hit.
At top speed, you would think that car is under maximum downforce. It's difficult to get that car to turn the way it did. It's by bopping the front. Nonetheless, Luigi Martini showing significant courage here. At the speeds you reach here around Sebring International Raceway, right up around 190 to 200 miles an hour.
So now the Corvette has had damage to the right front and the right rear from the 42 car and the 43 car respectively. Boy, that's a good tire marker.
Boy, Martini is really hustling that car, getting off the line and around slower traffic. Now here's our GT class leader, a lot of smudging on the back of that BMW.
Now this car sits on the same lap with the 10 car, which is the car, the 22 and the 23 Alex Jones Racing cars. We know that they are all pushing each other very, very hard. All of these drivers, all of these cars being driven very, very hard, trying to break the other cars.
It's no big surprise that these two teams are battling. The two BMWs, the Prototype Technology Group, and the two Porsches, Alex Jones Racing. Let's take a look at an incident down in the new hairpin. We predicted there'd be action down here, Jeremy, and we've certainly seen plenty of it. It's the number 8 prototype car goes around. We've got all kinds of traffic jam going on.
And that's on the entry to the hairpin, and it looks like he was hard on the brakes there and brought the car back to the left to put it on line to turn in, and just it swapped ends. It looked like he had any help there.
It's number 8 running with the race leader, although they are not on the same lap. Scott Schubert, Henry Camperman, and Buck King sharing that number 8 Riley and Scott Ford. We'll take a break. Plenty of action still coming your way. More than 9 hours of hard racing still to go here at Sebring. Welcome back to the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. Race leading BMW 12-cylinder LMR is in the hands of Tom Christensen, one of 2 former winners of the 24 Hours of Le Mans on this team. He's partnered with Jörg Mueller and former Formula One and Kart FedEx Championship Series driver J.J. Leto put the car on a record pole. Now, earlier, they had an electrical problem, dropped back, and have been working their way forward. Jeremy?
Well, they had a very minor problem, which was they had broken brake lights, believe it or not. And of course, that may not seem critical, but it's very important under the rules that they have operating brake lights, so they had to fix those. It was not a big deal, but they did lose a couple of laps. At the time, they had a 1-lap lead. You see a car there dropping wheels coming onto the back straightaway, kicking up a bit of dust. They had a 1-lap lead. They've managed to claw their way back to the lead. It's been a phenomenal driving performance by all of these drivers.
Took the race lead back with their sister car 43, made a pit stop. Now just ahead is the number 20 machine from Dyson Racing. It's Butch Leitzinger, former champion in this series, behind the wheel and about to go a lap down. The speed of these BMWs with all their Formula One technology is simply astonishing.
Well, and I think what you can say very clearly is that the Riley and Scott cars that Dyson is running are not really stretching themselves out to the rules the way the BMWs are. They could run 18-inch wheels, they're running 17s. They could run a 6-liter motor, they're running a 5-liter motor. They could run carbon brakes, they're running iron brakes. So they're not really completely, totally prepared for this event.
Perhaps hoping the Fords will beat the hair. The BMW in the hands of J.J. Leto qualified a record pole speed of over 121 miles per hour. And perhaps as astonishing as their speed has been their durability. They've been hitting other cars or being hit, and yet they continue at this tremendous pace.
And I don't think anyone anticipated that this BMW would be as fast as it is, because it is a brand new race car. This is the debut event for this race car. It has been tested, but I don't think anyone anticipated the outright speed from this BMW.
In fact, these cars only turned a wheel for the first time some 2 months ago. On board now with Christensen. And a look out the back at Butch Leitzinger, fading a car length or so with every tick of the clock. Closing up a little bit in that slow corner. This is down through Bishop Bend, named for John Bishop, who started what was then known as the International Motor Sports Association, which evolved into Professional Sports Car Racing, the sanctioning body for today's event and the entire American Le Mans Series.
Oh my God, one of the PANOZ cars on fire.
And heavily so.
And this is a bad place for that car to be because there's no one there. There's no one anywhere close to where that car is. And that car is going to burn.
One of two PANOZ cars in the field. These are the house cars owned by Don PANOZ, who also owns the lease on this racetrack.
Now, that is a very small extinguisher, and that is a very big fire, and unless we get a lot of those small extinguishers very quickly, this fire is going to get a hold of this car. And we are full course yellow. We have gone to a full course yellow here because this car is not in a particularly safe spot. Now, boy, this fire sure got going quickly because that started very small and got going very quickly and got very big. Must have been some kind of oil or fuel leak to get that going like that. You can see it started around where the exhaust pipe is. You can see a trail of it there on the ground.
So there's
following
fluid
the car.
on the ground, yep.
There is fluid on the ground, so there was some fluid leaking there. The exhaust system is what started that fire.
The engine at the front, the fuel tank at the rear. So a dangerous place for a fire. As you see, David Brabham continuing to direct rescue operations. Plenty of racing still to come. After another look at Sebring history, we'll be back to Sebring International Raceway. When it comes to winning at Sebring, no brand can hold a candle to Porsche. From the little 1.5-liter 550 Spiders in 1954 to the awesome 917s and on to the 935s and 962 models that won 13 overall victories in a row, there has always been a Porsche at Sebring. 17 overall victories and 63 class wins. No one else comes close. Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway. We are under caution once again at the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring, our third full course caution as we continue with our highlighted coverage of the 47th running of this great event. There have been multiple incidents. This one did not bring out the yellow flag as Johnny O'Connell, the last car in line, the PANOZ, recall that the sister car to this one has already burned up and dropped out of the race. O'Connell had to get on the brakes in a big way, took out the brake marker and spun, but it appears that car will be able to continue. But the yellow flag was brought out by a much more serious crash involving the BMW of Steve Soper.
And this is exiting turn 17 onto the main straightaway. It looked like he just got wide, dropped a wheel, clipped the barrier, and then that car, I mean, look at the left front of it, just torn apart, and of course it's shredding body panels as it goes. Now he got out of the car, he walked across the racetrack. We understand he's in the infield hospital now. We're trying to get to him, but that car definitely out of the race, and that has brought out a full course of caution.
And that incident took place while the BMW, the two brand new LMRs and that LM were running 1, 2, and 3 in the overall standings. It will not be a 1, 2, 3 podium sweep for BMW today. As we take a look at the standings at this juncture, BMW still running first and second. George Mueller in the hands of the pole-sitting car, still the race leader. Yannick Dalmas has taken over the number 43. Running a lap down, Elliott Forbes Robinson, O'Reilly and Scott with Ford Power, and Alex Caffey, the highest ranked Ferrari 333 SP. And in fifth place, Stefan Johansson, the winner of this race, on the brand new Audi R8R. The pace car comes off. We are once again. Once again, the Race League BMW gets a tremendous jump.
And it's very nice to have that clean, clear racetrack out in front of you. It's just very enjoyable from a driving perspective to just be able to drive the car with a clean and clear racetrack and just enjoy a few laps without the traffic. There is the second place car, the 33 car. A number of cars in between them. There's the PANOZ that Johnny O'Connell took off the racetrack. It seems to be okay. We couldn't see in that shot. We don't believe it hit the barrier, so the car looks okay and is underway.
The car came in. The report is they changed the windscreen and some of the front end bits. This actually taking place early in the 6th hour as we approach the halfway mark of the race. Right behind the 43, or being passed by it, I should say, is the Corvette, the number 3 car that leads the GTS division.
And look at that BMW just able to stuff it in there under braking. Just amazing. This is on board with the number 3 BMW right now, 13th overall. Of course, leading the GTS class.
Continuing to creep up the leaderboard. Eiffel, Fellows, and Paul Jr.
The sister car to this, the number 4 car, ran into some problems. They had some electrical problems out on the racetrack. They got the car back to pit lane, but that car has really fallen right off the leaderboard, not in the top 45, so big problems for the 4 car, but the 3 car continues to run strong.
In fact, it has a 2-lap lead over the second place Porsche, number 56 car, being shared by Martin Snow, his wife Melanie, and Patrick Heisman of the Netherlands.
This car, I'm sorry, Bob, this car has been in trouble though today. Made contact with both of the leading BMWs, both the 42 and the 43 car. One of those contact moments was actually right there in turn 17. The other one down in turn 10. So the Corvette has not completely stayed out of trouble today.
It has been that kind of race. Lots of contact and a sprint pace. Just a furious pace in this race. Leaders lapping regularly in the 116, 117 mile an hour range for average speed. There's your leader in the GT, the 3rd class of 23. To the right of your screen is the race leader in GT. A Porsche 911 and running 16th in the overall, behind just one of the GTS cars, that Corvette leading the class. And the rest GT2 machinery, so the GT cars are also on the move. Keep in mind, this is the car that won the 24 Hours of Daytona earlier this year. It's the number 10 BMW. There's a mix of machinery for you. GTP cars, GTS, and GT cars.
Well, on these restarts, there's always a lot of shuffling around because some cars have stopped for fuel, some cars have not stopped for fuel. So the order is really shuffling around, and you'll see faster cars coming back through the field on these restarts. Generally, for about 5 laps, it's utter mayhem.
You saw the number 10 BMW. That car is second in the class, but ahead of this car on the racetrack, so he has just unlapped himself. We saw yellow flags out. In fact, we had yellow flags all the way around. Our 4th caution of the day in the 2nd place BMW Dalmas.
This is turn 17. We talked in our opening show today how the reconfigured turn 17, and this looks like car contact of some kind, the reconfigured turn 17 was going to be a problem in traffic. Now, we haven't seen the replay, so we don't know, but that definitely looks like some car contact of some kind.
Speed differentials are everything here. Once again, we are under full course caution. There is the sole remaining BMW in the race at this moment. We'll see if they can get the 43 fixed, but it doesn't look good. We'll take a break. Return for more of the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. Don't go away. Welcome back to Sebring as we continue with highlighted coverage of the 47th Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. Bob Marshall along with Jeremy Dale, Steve Evans, and Dave Burns with you. We are about to go green after our 4th full course caution of the day. In fact, 2 yellow flags ago, there were 3 BMWs running nose to tail in the overall lead. Now there is one. By Steve Soper, brought out our 3rd full course caution of the day. Soper has been released from the infield medical center. He is all right, but he is not to talk with the media. And then moments after we went green, another crash by Yannick Dalmas in the number 43 car brought out our 4th full course caution. We are now back underway with one remaining remarkable new BMW V12 LMR. It leads the race from a record pole position set a couple of days ago. Now there is a stop-and-go penalty coming up for the number 10 BMW M3. Dave Burns has that story.
That's right, Bob. They've assessed a stop-and-go to the number 10 car. They did spend an extended amount of time in the pits to fix a couple of problems. One was to tighten the hood, which had flown off of the car, but also they had to replace the ignition box. Under caution, the heat buildup melted the ignition box. They put a new one in. He's underway.
That's Boris Said behind the controls. He had to work on that car till it was pushed behind the wall. When he took off again, there you see the hood flying up, and that's when the problems really began, Jeremy.
Yeah, they had some work to do on it, and they had been under the hood, but they didn't get it latched properly because they were trying to get Boris underway, so he had to stop, get out of the car, refasten the hood. You can see the damage there to the hood, and of course it damaged the windshield. Now you can pretty clearly see the cracked windshield on the car as we go on board with Boris.
Brought the car in. They unloaded a whole ton of racer's tape, fastening down the engine hood and covering the cracks in the windshield. So Boris Said, who was running on the lead of this class at one point earlier in the race, dropped all the way back to 4th place, 2 laps down to the class leader. You see that tape on the windshield.
And the pace in all 3 categories has been furious, but especially here in GT with these factory PTG BMWs going up against the Porsches of Alex Job Racing, and they've been pushing each other very, very hard.
It's been basically a 2-team battle in the GT class for production-based cars. Meanwhile, in the GTS category, to the left of your screen, beautiful Corvette. Number 3 being chased by its sister car, number 4. That second car, the number 4 car, has had a load of mechanical problems and is running way back in the 44th position, 9th in class. But the number 3 car has been ticking away like a clock, runs 12th in the overall order with a 2-lap lead over the next car in class. There you see Ron Fellows behind the wheel with the number 3 Corvette. Patrick Heisman is running the number 56 Porsche, second in class. And there in the 04 car in 6th place, Davy Jones making his return to racing, basically, after 2 years off following a heavy crash in an IRL car at Orlando, Florida back in 1997.
And it's great to have Davy back in a race car. He's so excited to be here. He's never driven a 911-based car, and he was very, very surprised how difficult the 911s are to drive.
Sharing with John Morton, making his 20th start, second on the all-time list, behind Hurley Haywood, whose 27th start came in fairly early with mechanical problems. Here's second in the class. That's the number 56 Porsche, being shared by Martin Snow, Melanie Snow, his wife, both out of Pleasantville, Utah, and Patrick Heisman. He's now behind the wheel from the Netherlands.
And of course, Patrick Heisman has tremendous experience in the European Porsche Super Cup Championship, so very familiar with Porsche cars. And the Snows, of course, have been running these 911s for a number of years.
Beautiful examples of the Porsche 911 running in the GTS category. Up on the race lead is the BMW V12 LMR. I imagine the BMW group must be biting their fingernails now, and we still have a long way to go. Shadows growing long as we work the 7th hour in our highlighted coverage of the 47th Superflow 12 Hours of Sebring. Bob Barnes and Jeremy Dale, along with Steve Evans and Dave Burns with you. There is the sole remaining BMW LMR in this race. At one point, BMW prototypes ran 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in the overall standings, but a series of incidents have taken out the other 2 cars. J.J. Leto, who put this car on pole at a record speed, over 121 miles an hour, is behind the wheel right now. Picking up other cars in the class, there is number 20, Butch Leitzinger, now behind the wheel of Rob Dyson's Wiley and Scott, Ford Power. And the number 12, just behind, is the Olive Garden Ferrari 333 SP. Max Angelelli was behind the wheel earlier on. We've had a series of yellow flags that have shuffled the order. We've had lots of pit stops. At one point or another, we've had as many as 4 cars on the lead lap at the same time, or the BMW running all by itself. Cars still tightly bunched. You can see the glare off the roadway now as the sun begins to get low, and then we will move into the nighttime hours when everything changes at Sebring. Plenty of traffic for these cars to work with now.
Well, generally on these restarts, cars are bunched up. Now that PANOZ is the sole remaining PANOZ in the field. One of the other PANOZ burned up actually at this very point, little lock in the right front there, headed out on the back straightaway. So this car now sitting in 5th overall, shown just 1 lap down from the overall lead. So the PANOZ cars doing a good job, just not quite have the outright speed. Look at the Ferrari. With the horsepower, gets by Butch Leitzinger, going down into 2017.
Ferraris, like some of the other more powerful cars, restricted with air restrictors, allowing air fuel into the manifold as they battle their way through traffic. The Ferrari is using the same RPMs it normally would, around 500, maybe 600 horsepower, but it is not as drivable. It doesn't respond to the throttle as quickly as the driver would like.
And look at Butch Leitzinger. The Ferrari clearly has the top end, but Butch, much more downforce in that Riley and Scott, and he is all over Angelelli now as they come through the carousel as they head down towards the hairpin.
Braking area coming up. Here's a passing opportunity. Patina pulls around slower traffic. See if the Ferrari can do the same before the Riley and Scott gets there. John Nielsen in the PANOZ. He hasn't had a lot of time in that car. Locks up the right front a little bit, gives up a position to the Ferrari, and cuts off Leitzinger.
And that was key for Angelelli to get around that PANOZ, and that really blocked Leitzinger out now as they continue to work through traffic. And look at Leitzinger, forced to cross from driver's left all the way into the apex, driver's right, really costing him some time now.
Through Cunningham Corner and the Collier curves, headed for the tower turn. John Nielsen has driven what was called the Q9 version of this PANOZ. It was a hybrid car running on a combination of petroleum-based fuels and electric power. That project now on hold, but it was designed originally for Le Mans.
Ran its one and only race at the Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta last fall and actually finished the race, but it's very tricky technology and they're sticking with these Ford V8s, and you can see those Ford V8s have plenty of horsepower. Those PANOZ cars very, very fast in a straight line.
There is car number 56. That is the GTS category for big bore production-based cars. That is the Snow Iceman Porsche 911, and it's running on the same lap as the leader in the GT category. Now that 56 car is in the lead because the race long class leader, the new Chevy Corvette C5R, has had all sorts of problems, and picking up that story is Dave Burns.
The 3 car an hour ago, Bob, was leading the class. They were dusting the field, but unfortunately, they blew a differential. They took it behind the wall. They made other repairs as well on new brake rubbers and pads, fueled the car, put John Paul back in the car, and sent him back out in 5th place in the GTS class. Unfortunately, they think when the differential blew, it sucked up some debris and ruined the pump that pumps the rear end full of fluids. They've had to replace that now, and that's why they're still on pit road more than 20 laps down.
Tough break for the Corvette team as the factory returns to sports car racing. Now, another car in this class that had problems after a terrific charge through the field was Zach Brown in number 83 Porsche. Watch as he puts a couple of wheels off, and then the trouble begins.
And boy, that's not where you want to drop wheels. And he spins it back to the inside into the inner pit wall there and pretty much destroys the left side of that car. Zach was okay, but that car done for the day.
That is a tough break. That car was held up in customs. It's a European-based 911. They didn't get as many laps as they would like. Changed the tire compound, went to the back of the field at the beginning of the race, worked their way all the way up to the top 3 in class before they crashed. Tough break for Zach Brown and the other members of his team, Claudia Hurtgen and Herbert Haupt. We'll take a break. Plenty of action still to come as we work our way toward the twilight here in Central Florida. More of the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring coming up. Headlights going from a decoration to a necessity here at Sebring International Raceway as the 47th Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring continues through the 8th hour. Our highlighted coverage continues with a great battle for the lead in the GT class between the number 23 Porsche of Ford Wagner and the number 7 BMW of Johannes van Overbeek. And this is a front of the leader in the GTS category. So much as we saw in the Daytona 24 Hours back in January, the lower or slower of the production-based classes is leading the faster class.
Well, don't forget they have a real fuel advantage coming out of the hairpin there. A lot of shenanigans. Here comes the Audi on the left.
On board now, the number 10 car running 4th in the GT class.
And there goes the number 0, Raffinelli, Riley and Scott with the Judd power. And the number 10 car will be trying to get by both of these cars to get a lap back relative to the position in the class. they can come up and challenge for this position as well.
Here comes a GTP class PANOZ. Trying to work his way by.
Wow, 3 wide there. That 911 on the left going very slowly. Look at those two BMWs with that damaged bodywork. Boy, that is a strange place to stick a nose in, and this is potential trouble because I don't know if Kurt Wagner knows that car's there.
Oh, Van Overbeek able to get on the brakes and gets on the throttle quicker. See if he can hold off his teammate.
And look at there is the other Alex Job car, the 22 car.
And that also is trying to get a lap back. 1 lap down to the battle for the lead between the 23 and the 7.
They're all together, all 4 of them.
How appropriate. These two teams have been battling all day long in this class. And now they're all running in a bunch on the racetrack. 7 and 23 on the same lap, 22, 1 lap down, 10, 2 laps down. Back to the race lead. Number 42 out of the pits after a stop-and-go penalty, now shown 3rd. And 30 seconds behind the new race leader, the number 12, Taylor Caffey Fangio Ferrari.
Now, isn't that interesting? That car has been really very quiet all day. We haven't seen much of the number 12 car. They've been going about their business in a very quiet way, and all of a sudden, there they are in the lead. But very close to them is the 20 car.
There's the race leader to the right of your screen. Ferrari 333 SP V12. Ooh. Maybe the other car was coming over on him there.
Well, that makes me nervous down there where that wall is. Now, not far behind him is the 20 car. Where is it? There it is. That is for the race lead. That's a half a second between those two cars. That is for the race lead. Phenomenal. After so much time, after so many miles, you have 2 cars so close on the racetrack.
The overall standings, as you see the time ticking away, coming up on 4.5 hours to go. So much can happen between now and then.
And both these teams, I have to tell you, both these teams were confident in their ability, with local track knowledge, understanding this event, to win it, even though they know they don't have the fastest race car. They know the BMW is the faster car. But these teams have been here before. They know how to win races. They know this racetrack, and they're very confident in their ability to do that.
About mechanical diversity. Butch Leitzinger from State College, Pennsylvania. Big, booming 5-liter Lozano Brothers Ford V8 chasing that high-revving Ferrari V12 in the hands of Max Angelelli. That's the turn off for the short course.
These two right now sitting about 60 seconds in front of the number 42 car. And it looks like Angelelli pulling out just a little bit on Butch Leitzinger.
Overhead cam Ferrari against the pushrod Ford. Many people thought that Ford engine was at the end of its development curve several seasons ago, but it has already won the 24 Hours at Daytona this year, and now it's battling here at Sebring once again. Now we're beginning to see the glowing of the brake discs. That will be fascinating to watch as we get into the hours of darkness still to come here at the race. Butch Leitzinger using all of the track and then some in his efforts to overhaul that fleeing Ferrari. We'll take a break and be back with more as the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring rolls on. In 1959, Sebring hosted the Formula One U.S. Grand Prix for the first and only time. The race was dominated by the rear-engine Coopers driven by Jack Brabham and Bruce McLaren. When Brabham ran out of fuel, McLaren became the youngest Formula One race winner at age 22, a record that still stands. Although a number of Formula One champions have raced at Sebring, only 4 have won the 12 Hours. Flying down the backstretch at Sebring International Raceway, Butch Leitzinger in the red, white, and blue, Riley and Scott looking for a way by the orange and green Ferrari for the race lead here at the Superflow 12 Hours, trying the outside.
Oh, man, what a move! Whoa! What a move around the outside by Butch Leitzinger. Just phenomenal. Angelelli got held up in traffic onto the back straightaway, and just a phenomenal move by Butch Leitzinger.
So for the first time today, the Dyson Racing team has a taste of the lead here at Sebring. This race has been dominated for most of the first 7 hours by the BMWs. There is only one of the 3 BMWs that started still in the running, and that one is currently in 3rd place after a pair of visits to the penalty box for passing the pace car before a green flag came out after a yellow, and then for speeding in the pit lane. So the BMW trails this field by more than half a minute as Butch Leitzinger tries to open up a gap. Let's take another look at that pass.
And Angelelli, his speed slightly compromised, allowed Leitzinger to close in as they headed down into 17. This is the last thing that Angelelli is expecting. He's protecting the inside. Butch knows he's got more grip, better downforce with that Riley and Scott, and look at him. Pinches Angelelli right down. He knows that lap car is there. There's nowhere Angelelli could go, and he takes the race lead. Phenomenal.
Checkmate. Now Leitzinger finds himself working traffic among the GT cars, and Angelelli is on the charge.
The Dyson boys must be just screaming down in their pit lane. When a driver does something like that, it just motivates the team. You can't believe how it motivates the team and just lifts everyone up. They know they don't have the fastest race car here. But with driving like that, and with that kind of tenacity, you know you can win this race.
Now let's check on the number 42 BMW LMR. There is JJ Leto, pole sitter for this race. He is going to be trying to make up some ground. Earlier I said half a minute. He is actually over 60 seconds behind the battle for the lead. Beautiful late afternoon light here at Sebring as Butch Leitzinger leads away from Max Angelelli. Ford versus Ferrari. How many times over the 46 previous runnings of this race have announcers been able to describe that battle between 2 of the giants in motorsports?
And don't think for a second that Butch Leitzinger is just going to drive away from this Ferrari. It's not going to happen. These 2 cars very, very evenly matched. Look at Butch even driving a little defensively down into the hairpin.
Cars come at you like that. 2 different variations on the theme of air restrictors to control the horsepower of these cars. 2 of them in the hood scoop of the Riley and Scott. 1 single larger restrictor in the Ferraris.
And really the Ferraris have been hurt more by the air restrictor rule because they are a higher revving engine. The high revs, you can only pull so much air into the motor, and that has not hurt the Fords as much as the Ferrari. Butch now catching another GTP car in not a particularly good place. Slides around the outside, and that's actually also going to hurt Angelelli. That's where you don't want to compromise your speed, is coming on to that back straightaway.
Full tilt boogie down the backstretch. Beautiful race car. Onto the pit straightaway. Leitzinger appears to be drawing away just a little bit. Each lap. The gap shown as 1.4 seconds. Coming up around the 4-rotor Mazda Kudzu. The Downing stops in Atlanta. The sponsor Mazda Kudzu. Both 4-rotor and 3-rotor versions in this race. Setting sun making the shadows grow long here. A massive crowd on hand, and the party will go well into the night. We'll take a break and return with more highlighting coverage of the 47th Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. Dan Gurney once said it, and I'll enthusiastically second the motion. Sunsets just seem better here at Sebring. Working the 9th hour of the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring, we are under the caution for the 7th time in this 47th running at Sebring. Let's take another look at how it happened. An extraordinary crash involving the sole remaining PANOZ in this race in the hands of John Nielsen.
And that car, that is back at Bishop's Bend. Look at that barrier move. That car just did not want to turn. And John Nielsen, a very lucky chap, because he got out of that car. And he's talking to his teammates. That's Jan Magnussen and Johnny O'Connell. And he's obviously telling them, you know what? It just didn't turn. And I went straight in. I tried to turn it, but I couldn't turn it.
Now, just about the same moment, watch the car to the right of your screen. That is Johannes van Overbeek, as the left front wheel simply departs the race car.
And very hard to tell from that angle why it came off the race car, but he had no choice but to get it back to the pit lane. And this is the damage that he did, because he's got to drive it through these right-hand corners, and that left front corner, now that's mainly chassis damage. You can see the brake rotor's not turning, but that's not particularly good for that race car.
While the lights are out on the safety car, we're ready to go racing once again. Riley and Scott Ford from Dyson Racing, number 20, is leading, but the two cars chasing it in class are in the line, barely 7 seconds behind the number 12 Ferrari and the number 42 BMW. As they come off the turn, headlights on now for just about everyone as the sun bids us all adieu. We are back under green.
There is J.J. Leto. I saw him lined up behind that Ferrari. There they go, side by side into turn one. Leto is not going to waste any time taking that position. He's got it. There he is, up the inside of that Porsche.
The number 12 Ferrari. Number 42 has just been passed.
He got him on the main straightaway on the restart. Leto has got his eyes on Butch Leitzinger. He wants to get back to the race lead, control this race from the front.
In the braking area for the hairpin. Leto, Tom Christensen of Denmark, and Jörg Müller of Germany. Passing the GT Porsche. The headlights begin to glare as it gets darker and darker. It'll be tougher to identify the race cars.
These BMWs on the back of those mirrors that stand up so high there, cars had red lights and blue lights, which is the team's way of identifying the cars. This is the car with the red lights on the mirrors. There's our leader, Butch Leitzinger. He's got the number 0, Raffinelli, Riley, and Scott behind him. That car right now well down in the order, 22nd overall, 27 laps down, but running very, very quickly at the racetrack. And there is J.J. Leto.
Television cameras make it look much lighter than it really is here at Sebring. 17. Onto the pit straightaway. There's the number 23 Porsche leading the GT category. Saw the problems for the number 7 BMW earlier on. These two cars were battling for the lead in class. Now this car in the hands of Kurt Wagner is on its own lap in the GT. Race within a race. The next car in line is the number 10 BMW, 2 laps behind. GTS leader, number 56 Porsche coming by. The haze rising off the racetrack in the fields makes the headlights shimmer. The high-speed turn 17. Picking up the battle for the lead, the BMW on the left, on the right, the Riley and Scott. J.J. Leto brings the car back into the lead after fighting his way up following 2 visits to the penalty box to pit lane to stop and go penalties. Closing up on one of the Audis off the back of J.J. Leto's BMW, looking back. Butch Leitzinger's Riley and Scott.
And if that pass looked easy, it probably was a little easier than it would have been under competitive racing conditions. But Butch knows that that he cannot defend himself from this BMW on speed alone. If they're going to win this race, they have to do it tactically. They have to do it with strategy.
We check the driver in the 20 car. We're told it's Elliott Forbes Robinson now. J.J. Leto swings onto the pit straightaway right out to the edge of the racetrack.
That's a better look at how dark it is. That particular camera. Because it is getting quite dark. Now, of course, these guys do practice in the night. On Thursday night, there's a night practice. So they've driven the racetrack in the night. They know that their headlights are properly aimed, and these cars have phenomenal lighting systems on them. And this is not their first time out on the racetrack in the dark.
Well, they have several night practices. If we take another look at the pass, Leto coming around EFR.
And again, Elliott Forbes Robinson not blocking him, not trying to overly defend that position because he knows it's only a matter of time before this BMW is going to get by him.
If you ask the drivers about racing in the total darkness that you get here at Sebring, many of them seem to enjoy it. Just looking down into the cone of light created by your headlights helps a driver to focus totally on what's going on. It's a very solitary feeling, I'm sure. And it's coming up shortly for the survivors to this point in the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. We'll be back. Night has officially fallen at Sebring International Raceway as we continue with Hour 9, our highlighted coverage of the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. There's the race leader, J.J. Leto, and the BMW LMR, who now has 19 seconds in hand over the second place, Riley and Scott Ford of Elliott Forbes Robinson, and 33 seconds to the third place, Ferrari 333 SP. Glare from the headlights. Extraordinary headlights they are on this BMW. Blowing the brake rotors at the front. Look at the light thrown off by that car.
Yeah, these cars, I watched them in night practice out trackside on Thursday night. And yeah, careful there, JJ. You don't put yourself in very position. And it's just remarkable how much light these xenon headlights throw from this car. Just a phenomenal amount of light.
There's the comparison right there with the other more conventional technology of that other GTP car. As Leto goes by. Some serious cable power.
You can see they've got the little marker lights in the front part of the rear view mirrors. They got the little red marker lights on that BMW.
Here's the leader in the GTS class for production-based cars. Car number 56. Martin Snow, wife Melanie, and Patrick Heisman of the Netherlands.
And what's great about these Porsche turbos, look under there. See those glowing? That is the exhaust system and the turbochargers there that glow red hot under the back of that car. I love that look.
Amazing technology in these cars. The 56 car has a 2-lap lead over the second-place car in the GTS class. There's the number 48, a similar Porsche 911 Turbo, European-based car from Freisinger Motorsport. Wolfgang Kaufmann, Michel Ligonnet, and Lance Stewart from Florida.
And until you've stood by the side of the racetrack and you've watched race cars in the dark, you can't appreciate how exciting it is to watch race cars in the dark. It's just phenomenal.
Great fun to watch. There's the number 23 Porsche 911. The leader in the GT category is Darrell Havens, Court Wagner, Kelly Collins. Winners at Daytona continue on their merry way. Currently 2 laps ahead of the number 10 BMW running in second place. And that car is, well, check that. As timing and scoring changes, 10 has now dropped to third as he suffers more problems. Let's take another look at what happened.
This is the 10 car that was second in class and pulling off the racetrack, and this looks kind of final to me. That puts the 2 Alex Job Porsches, the 23 car and the 22 car, up into first and second in the GT class.
Looks like Porsche might do it again here in endurance racing. incredible record. 17 overall victories, far more than any other manufacturer. 63 class wins here at Sebring. Hey, great seats. After another look at Sebring history, we'll be back with more of the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. Among the legendary drivers who have raced at Sebring, one holds a record that will never be matched. In March of 1961, Phil Hill won the 12 Hours for the third time in 4 years with Olivier Gendebien. In June, the pair won the 24 Hours of Le Mans. In September, Hill won the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, becoming the only man to win Sebring, Le Mans, and the Formula One World Driving Championship in a single year. Welcome back to our highlighted coverage of the 47th Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. What was expected to be a battle of tires turned into a fuel mileage war when the number 20 Dyson Racing Riley and Scott Ford led the number 42 BMW LMR into the final moments. It was time for everyone to make their final strategic moves, and the key moment came when it was time for the Ford to stop. It has come down to this: 2 men, 2 cars, 2 different teams battling for the overall win, and they will almost certainly shatter the all-time record at Sebring for narrowest margin of victory. The most dramatic finish ever. As things currently stand, Tom Christensen in the brand new BMW LMR leads James Weaver of England in the R&S Ford by barely 11 seconds, and Weaver has been taking huge chunks of time off of the former Le Mans champion on the race lead. And here was the moment that gave the 42 car the lead.
James Weaver was not originally scheduled to be in this car. Butch Leitzinger doing a great job in this car, brings it in for the final fuel stop. James Weaver gets in the car a little bit fresher than Butch Leitzinger, who drove only with one co-driver all day. That was Elliott Forbes Robinson. They topped this car up, made a very, very quick pit stop, and got back out onto the racetrack, but they lost the lead.
The new American Le Mans Series could not have a more dramatic debut. With barely a handful of minutes to go, as the 42 car with Christensen at the controls came through to take the lead through the daylight hours in this 47th running of the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. It was the GT categories that gave us all the close racing. But when the sun went down and the attrition set in, it was all the premier GTP class. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Jeremy Dale, Steve Evans, and Dave Burns, still down in the pit lane for the dramatic final moments of this race. Now let's get more on the GTP story. Can the BMW hang on to win its debut race? Here's Dave Burns.
Team Dyson retired the 16 car, and then they had 4 drivers they could choose from to put in the car, the 20 car. Pat Smith, team manager, why did you decide to put James Weaver in out of all the drivers you had?
Well, James has been the fastest, and we've tried some softer tires on the 16 car, and he was considerably faster than anybody on the track, so we figured we'd put him and those tires on the 20 car and let him go. And he's within 10 seconds. I don't know if he's going to make it or not.
All right, they're hoping, and he has a very soft compound still on the car, so he's trying to track him down.
Back in 1970, the Ferrari factory team behind Mario Andretti won by just 22 seconds over Steve McQueen and Peter Revson in a Porsche. The gap from Tom Christensen in the race-leading BMW to James Weaver in that car, number 20, Riley and Scott Ford, is now barely 8.4 seconds. But the laps are winding down, and we expect the white flag for the race leader next time by. One more lap of this 3.7-mile racetrack that has seen so many dramatic moments in the 46 previous runnings of the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. There is the number 42 BMW. Only 7 times in the history of this race has the pole sitter gone on to win the race. And what an amazing moment it would be for this BMW, built by the Williams Grand Prix operation in England. The car only turned a lap for the first time 2 months ago, but J.J. Leto put it on pole with a record-breaking average speed of over 121 miles an hour. And though they have suffered their bumps and bruises throughout the day, the team of Christensen, Leto, and Jörg Müller of Germany have been absolutely bulletproof, putting the car into the lead and holding on now.
And obviously the experience they gained at Le Mans last year really played a role in the design and build manufacture of this car, but the execution has just been brilliant here at Sebring this week. They've been fast all week. They've done a great job. Just a phenomenal effort by this BMW team.
If they can hold on as the white flag waves over Tom Christensen and the BMW. It will be the first ever overall victory here at Sebring for Michelin Tires. Remarkable, considering that French rubber company's long history in motorsports. The gap beginning the last lap out to 8.8 seconds.
Phenomenal performances by both teams. The Dyson team, the BMW team. This BMW, the class of the field. Very, very fast race car. Great drivers, all three of them. Of course, former Le Mans winners. But the Dyson team has put up a fight, and these guys will be the first to tell you how hard it has been.
In the GTS class, a Porsche leads in the hands of the husband and wife team of Martin and Melanie Snow and Porsche Super Cup veteran Patrick Heitzman. And a Porsche 911 also leads the GT category. And for Kelly Collins and Bud Friedman, a victory here at Sebring would mean a sweep of the 24 Hours of Daytona and the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring.
This is Christensen coming up on one of the Audis, flashing the lights. Let me through.
What an amazing day it's been here at Sebring with a handful of leaders in each of our classes. And as it always seems to happen in endurance racing, the ebb and flow of competition sometimes leads to massive margins of victory. Sometimes, even after 12 hours of racing at a sprint pace, it comes down to something like this. 8 seconds between the top two teams. Checkered flag is up and it waves. Victory and pole for the brand new BMW V12 LMR. And for the driving team of J.J. Leto, Tom Christensen, and Jörg Mueller. Finishing second unofficially, Dyson Racing will be back to start meeting our winners in just a moment. Welcome back to Sebring, where the celebrations are continuing. There's Gerhard Berger, motorsports manager and former Formula One driver, running BMW's operation. And what a success he is having as his team of Tom Christensen, J.J. Leto, and Jörg Mueller bring the BMW V12 LMR to victory. In the other classes, in the GTS category, Martin and Melanie Snow and Patrick Heitzman bring their Porsche home in first place. In the GT category, Kelly Collins, Darrell Havens, and Court Wagner emerge victorious. Right now, joining us here in our announce booth, the founder of the American Le Mans Series and the head of PANOZ Motorsports, Mr. Don PANOZ. Nice way to open your new series, sir. What'd you think of the race?
Well, as the Irish say, it's like all your birthdays came at once.
Boy, I guess.
You know, the crowd and the fans have just responded to good racing, good competition, a show that we put on, and we couldn't be more delighted. And I booked this weather last December, so everything's worked out fine today.
No rain delays. You must be thrilled, though, with the arrival of this BMW team and the Audi team. I mean, it's so exciting, and I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah, and you consider, you know, these are factory teams. They're very well planned out with their budgets, and this wasn't on their schedule.
Right.
When they were planning their assault on Le Mans this year in June. And they decided that the Sebring and the American Le Mans Series is a good way to start off to get prepared for Le Mans, and we got them here. You probably won't see them at the next race because, like I said, it wasn't in their schedule. But they'll be back here after Le Mans, and they'll be racing. I think just BMW and the Dyson team did a credible job today. We got to give them credit. You know, they won at Daytona. And we got to acknowledge that the Audi, you know, Audi came here, they hadn't raced at all. They didn't even have a prototype like BMW last year, and they were third. And there was the Porsche, old nemesis, the old GT1 Porsche champion car, coming in there for fourth today. I think when you look at this field and you look at the competition, I think you have to admit that the fans certainly got their money's worth today.
That's Mr. Don PANOZ. Victory laps being completed out on the racetrack. Let's get down to our Suzuki winner's circle now and Steve Evans.
Hey, Steve Evans, it is being crushed by a mass of humanity in the designated winner's circle here as Tom Christensen brings home the car that J.J. Leto started exactly 12 hours ago. Mueller first gold in and throwing the gloves to the admiring photographers and fans. Now the car is rolling over by big toes. That's special. soon as Tommy can get his helmet off, I'm sure to be joined by his teammates. Back, there is J.J. Leto, and there is Mueller. The three young drivers who did such a brilliant job. I'm trying to get in here, so I get a hand off, guys. Tom. J.J. Quick. Did you know this morning what a great race car you were going to have, J.J.? We just about out of time here, buddy, please. Did you know what a great race car this was truly going to be today?
Well, it was really close in the end, you know. I mean, we didn't expect that it's going to be so competitive all the way to the end, but, you know, the BMW lasted very well, you know. We didn't have any problems, so the whole team is really happy.
Let's send it back up to the booth, Bob.
All right, thanks, Steve. Now let's go to Dave Burns as we continue our Suzuki Winner's Circle interviews with the GTS class winners.
And that is Patrick Heisman. And Patrick, standing here with Carter Martin Snow, you guys weren't supposed to beat the Corvettes today. How did you do it?
Well, the crew did a very good job. The car was running perfectly all day, and we just kept on going, stayed out of traffic, and we were very good on fuel consumption, and I think that finally made it up for us.
They ran the 12 hours, guys, and that's what it takes.
All right, thanks very much, Dave. Congratulations to Martin and Melody Snow and Patrick Heisman, GTS class winners. One more class to hear from as the fireworks explode over Central Florida. Stay with us. More from Sebring in a moment. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring is being brought to you by Exxon Superflow Motor Oil. Provides protection that's fast, protection that lasts. By Roundup. Roundup kills weeds down to the root. Roundup, no root, no weed, no problem. And by Wolverine, boots and shoes since 1883. Wolverine works anywhere. Welcome back to Sebring. 47th Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. I'm Bob Marshall along with Jeremy Dale. Now, one more class to hear from. GT, here's Dave Burns.
Kelly, the BMW M3s and the other Porsches gave you fits all day. How tough was it to beat them in the final hours?
Well, I'll tell you what, the hardest thing to beat was just ourselves. The last hour and a half, we lost third gear. I had to drive around in second, fourth, and fifth, and putting up with traffic. I actually made headway on a lot of cars, and it was awfully difficult. I give all the credit to the ARE team, the whole team, Daryl and the Alex Jobe Racing, and my partners, Court Wagner, Daryl Havens. It was tough. It was really tough.
All right, Kelly Collins brings him home, and guys, I think he's ready for a nap.
I'll bet. Congratulations to Kelly Collins, Daryl Havens, and Court Wagner on their sweep of the 36 Hours of Florida. Here's a look at the final results of the 47th running of the Superflow 12 Hours at Sebring. Not since 1975, when Brian Redmond, Sam Posey, Alan Moffat, and Hans Stuck put a BMW CSL in victory lane, has BMW been here. But boy, they did it with style, Jeremy Dale.
Well, that is a classic sports car race. Mechanical diversity, great competition. The closest finish on record. Phenomenal race, phenomenal debut for the American Le Mans Series. Can't wait for Le Mans.
No question about it. A great weekend of racing here at Sebring once again. It has been hectic, but it has been enjoyable. A new record, officially 9.29 seconds, the smallest margin of victory for the overall win in the history of this fabled race. And so now a new roster of champions go into the record book, and a crowd of some 100,000 will go home happy. Jeremy Dale, Dave Burns, and Steve Evans, I'm Bob Varsha. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, a part of Go Network, Go.com. So long from Sebring.